Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we'll make more custom square banks. As I have more and more banks to make, I actually found out that I need to start having some inventory of banks. And the reason for that is because it's a multi-day process in the shop to make these banks. I can't speed any of those processes really up because then the quality will definitely go down. A great example of that is, if you look at all these banks, they're actually laminated. So it's not a solid piece of poplar. In this case here it's poplar, but it could be any wood species that you want. And the reason for that is because if you use a solid piece, at this size here, it probably doesn't matter too much, but these are going all across North America. They might have variations in temperature, humidity, and so forth. And if you don't have something that's laminated, you lose a lot of strength and you can start having stuff warp on you. So because of that, I have to laminate the boards myself. Now, lamination is not a problem. I use the machine behind me to make them. Not an issue at all. But you can't really speed up the gluing and the curing process. You can use activators and those kind of things when it comes to glue. But the problem with that is that you need to give time for the wood to condition, you need to give time for the glue to condition, everything to sort of work its way through. And so, if I got to make, 5 of these things here, and, I got to make them in 4 hours, it's not possible unless I have the laminated board already. So the laminated board generally is 24 to 48 hours, and then to manufacture them is a few more hours. So, if you have a birthday coming up in an hour from now, and I don't happen to have an X, for instance, then you just don't get a bank. It's that straightforward. So that's why I'm starting to build up a little bit of inventory for CNCKing.com customers. So if they have a rush order and they need it by tomorrow or whatever, I can actually have that for them. So after spending more than a year making a lot of mistakes making these custom CNCKing.com banks, I finally got everything sorted out, all the kinks sorted out. Now I'm just at the point now where I'm optimizing designs and I'm fixing things before they're an issue. And that's a wonderful position to be in. I always envied some of my customers and my friends who have businesses, and for them they have like 1 or 2 products and that's all they do. So what they do is they streamline something so that they make 1,000 units a day, and if they figure out how to save 1 second, that builds up over time per unit. It's amazing. And I'm now to that point with these. I got an amazing machine, I got the wood supplier sorted out, I got everything sorted out, and this is where it's kind of fun now, because I spent the last year learning everything I needed to know to be able to make this professionally and make them in volume and make them in any quantity that I need to with any sort of design parameters a customer might have, and that's not an issue anymore. I could actually design it, proof it, make an animation, do anything I need to do to make a totally custom bank within a couple of days. Now the reason why I always tell customers it takes a couple of days is this process you see happening right here. It's glue. Now, yes, I could sort of glue it with an activator to speed up the curing process. There's ways of sort of cutting corners when you're doing this kind of work, but I don't like doing that because I want to make something that's a generational bank that's going to last a very, very long time. And the way to do that is to not cut any corners. If you think about a bank that would last 20, 30, 40 years, save a couple of days, not really worth it, at least in my opinion. So these are not, at this point, mass produced. These are produced on demand, on order, but I'm also building up some inventory. And the reason for that is because some customers, I found out, actually need their banks like tomorrow. And I got to explain to them that it doesn't happen that fast. That's not the way this business works. But now that I have a bit of inventory, now I can actually ship it out. Of course, there are customizations options or lower, but if you need it tomorrow, you need it tomorrow. So that's now an option on CNCKing.com for most designs. And I'm always building up more inventory to handle sort of rushes and orders and that sort of thing. In addition, a lot of families have a couple kids, or they have an anniversary coming up, or there's a corporate event and they need to do a whole bunch, for something on their tables. I do that as well. And for those things, of course, you need a bit more time. But if you have very limited time, I can sort of pump these out pretty quickly now, very efficiently. And the nice thing is the consistency. You'll notice while the cutting is being done, or the excavation in this case here, in this step,
I'm actually measuring it out with digital calipers. And what I'm doing is double checking that the thickness and the height and all those sort of things are in my design file are actually the same when I do this in real life. And they're within, they're well within tolerance, especially considering I'm doing these out of wood, not aluminum or steel using a milling machine. So that's just fun. When I first started doing these, this stuff was all over the place. It was amazing. The fire pit was fed a lot of very expensive oak and poplar banks when I first started doing this stuff. And now the fire pit, all you get is scraps. So that's definitely progress in my book. Now there's always room to sort of optimize processes over and over and over again. And that's a point where I'm at to now. I have a 5x10 table, but you'll notice the slab, I can fit another one of these slabs in front of this slab and another slab in back of this table-wise. So I actually have 3 positions where I can make these custom banks in one shot. So now I'm starting to think about how I'm going to efficiently do that, because I could have one program running on the first third of the table, and that's flattening these slabs to be glued up. I could have a second position on the 5x10 table. Once those slabs are dry, that's where they go, and they're flattened on the top and the bottom, so everything's perfect. And then I can actually have a third position, and on that position there is where the banks are actually produced and made. So there's a lot of fun to be had as I further optimize the process, as the volumes go up, as I learn more and more about custom bank production more than anything else.
One of the challenges with making on-demand products is that sometimes your suppliers all of a sudden don't have the product that you need anymore. A great example of that is actually the front of the acrylic. In this case here, I have a very light green acrylic. Might be kind of hard to see on the video, but this is a very, very light tinge of green. See if you get through the light, not really. So I called the supplier up and I said, I need a couple more sheets of this stuff. And they said, oh, we're sold out. We don't have any more. And I said, well, when's the next order coming in? Or when's the next shipment? And they said, well, it's gonna be a couple months. Okay, well, what do you have as an alternative? And they said, oh, we have this other acrylic that's really, really close to it. And this is what they have the closest to what I used to use. Now you can definitely see on the video now that there is a big difference. And that's some of the things that you sort of have to contend with when it comes to dealing with suppliers. I can't buy containers worth of acrylic. I buy more than enough for acrylic to handle a couple of orders, but I can't have, 2-3 months supply of it. It's incredibly expensive, and you need the storage and all that kind of stuff that I'm trying to gear away from with this business. So sometimes there's a bit of substitution. In this case here, the acrylic here, I have a choice where it's a very, very light green that's no longer available. So then I have a little bit of a darker green, as you can see here. Or I have a completely clear, transparent, without any tinge of color. So that's, when I contact the customer and let them know, okay, this specific one is no longer available, here are your options. And then we just go from there.
As with any production cycle, there's always some things that you could sort of improve upon. And using the bandsaw for this process here over a jigsaw, my God, it's 9 days. It's just absolutely amazing to be able to do that. Now the next step for me, of course, is to get a bigger bandsaw. This one here is a 14-inch, and really to do this efficiently, it would be really, really nice to have 2 bandsaws. So one very large bandsaw where I cut these into long strips. Then the other bandsaw, it could be a 14-inch like this one, doesn't really matter, cutting out individually all the way around. I can't believe I used to do this stuff with the router directly. Again, a lot of things you just sort of learn by doing, and you make enough mistakes, eventually you know what you're doing the right way. The router itself, I just have a small router that I use for the routering that I've used in my shop for the last couple of years. And again, that's something I'd like to upgrade to a more beefy machine. And the only reason I wanted to be able to do that is so I could customize the back profile of all these custom banks. So there's a lot of areas where I could further customize the production of these banks, and not just material, but also preferences. Right now, almost all the banks we do now have a chamfer on the top, but there's no chamfer on the bottom. I could do that. There's a lot of little tweaks and things that can always be done to make the product better, make the product more unique like a snowflake, so that no two are ever alike that leaves the shop. What you see here is me just removing the acrylic, and it always blows my mind that these are two completely different machines. The laser does the acrylic, and during that process there, it also makes the holes. And the wood, of course, is from the router. That makes the whole bank itself. And somehow, magically, these holes line up absolutely perfectly. And that was quite a learning process, but I'm happy that's behind me because those holes gave me nothing but headaches. But now it's an absolute pleasure to combine them all perfectly together to make a perfectly unique product.
So when it comes to ordering your custom bank on sandboxranch.com, there's a lot of options on the website. If you're a little bit confused, just contact me and we could sort them out pretty straightforward. You'll also notice on a link on every one of those pages, of the bank pages, there's a link that explains, with a video or photographs, what each one of those options are. And the reason why I have lots of options is because some people like having a lot of options. Of course, some people don't like options, they just want, a green S, for instance. So if you want to contact me and just say I want a green S, not a problem. We could go that way, or you could order online and go from there. Now, of course, we customize it however you need. Beyond that, meaning that you could have laser engraving on the front, on the back. On this one here, you can have it on the sides. You can have it actually on the inside of the bank. There's a ton of options that you can have to customize the bank however you want. But if you're not into that, not a problem. Just contact me and we'll go from there. So head over to sandboxranch.com. We can make the custom bank for you on order, on demand, and ship it right to your door.